Hi, and welcome to video 2 of Financial Algebra of Week 2, which is fractions and decimals and percents. You want to have your notebook, a spiral notebook that you're keeping notes in, and you want to have a calculator. If you don't have a handheld calculator, you can get one online. Just put it on a different tab on your Chromebook. Desmos.com has a great online calculator, desmos.com. You want to click on scientific calculator. That's what you're interested in. All right, we got a warm up here today. It says, what's wrong with this price sticker? It says 20% off. $5 was $7.50. You saved $2.50. There's something wrong with that sticker. See if you can't figure out what it is. Give yourself a moment. Pause the video now to think about it. All right, did you pause the video? I hope you did. Well, if you look at it, 20% of 750, we could go 7.50 times 0.2, and that's $1. So we could say 0.2 times 750, that equals $1.50. And 750 minus $1.50 is $6, not $5. So, if you take 250 and divide it by 750, you get the decimal 0.33 going forever, which means it's 33%, because a decimal times 100 equals a percentage. So, depends on what you want to pick, but it's either 33% off and you've got the right price, or it's 20% off and you have the wrong price. All right, here's part 2 of our warm-up. What is an easy way to determine 10% of $19.95? And B, if a coat is $89.95 and it is 15% off, how much is the final price? I'd like you to stop the video now and do those in your notebook. Give yourself 3-4 minutes. Did you stop your video? I hope you did. The easiest way to determine 10% of anything is, since we're on the decimal 10 number system, all you have to do is move it over one place. 10% is like dividing by 10 or times 0.10, and what that equals is 1.99, or they would probably round up to $2. If a coat is $89.95 and it's 15% off, how much is the final price? Well, there's a couple ways to do this. Let's take a look at one way. One way would be you would go 0.15, which is 15% as a decimal. We take 15% and we divide it by 100, and we get 0.15. If it helps you think of it as, how would I write 15 cents? You would write 0.15, and so that would be correct. And then times 89.95. If you plug that into your Desmos calculator, you would get $13.49. Then you would have to take 89.95 and subtract 13.49, and you would get $76.46. There is another way to do this that's one step easier. If you take 100% as a decimal, which is 1.00, and you subtract 15% as a decimal, which is 0.15, what you get is 0.85. And you can just multiply 89.95 times 0.85, and you'll get the same amount that we came up with our two-step process. 89.95 times 0.85 equals $76. and 46 cents. Doesn't matter which way you do it. The second way has one less step. All right, getting to know you. Put A in the chat if you're 16, B if you're 17, C if you're 18, and D if you're something that's not included in 16, 17, or 18. So, obviously, if you're watching this video, we're not in class and you can't type in the chat. Let's say we have a class of 20 people and that 12 out of 20 were 17. Now, to use a fraction, we would have this, 12 out of 20, right? That's our fraction. To do a decimal, we would do 12 divided by 20. And if you plug that into your decimals calculator, you get 0.6. And to figure out what a percentage of it is, you would take 0.6 times 100, and you would get 60%. Hope you got those right. If not, I hope you figured out what you're going to do right the next time. You want to do our notes today as Cornell notes. We're not going to be taking a lot of notes today. We're just basically going to be working in this space here. But it's good to get in the habit of setting up Cornell notes. It just basically helps you with your math. It's all in one place, and you know how to access it. And if you forget something from last week or 2 weeks ago, you know where you can go look to figure it out. All right, our learning targets today are what's a fraction, what's a decimal, and what's a percentage, and how are they the same but different. Write that across the... All right, I want you to write some vocab down underneath your learning target. What I want you to write is what you see here. You don't have to use the examples, but of means multiply. Is means equals. Percent means divide by 100. So, of means multiply. So if somebody tells you something is 5% of 100, you would take 5% times 100. 5% as a decimal is 0.05, which is what you would write, 0.05 times 100. Is means equals. As 3 times 4 is 12, it's the equal sign. And percent means divide by 100. 5% means 5 divided by 100, or this decimal right here, 0.05. All right. It's my guess that if you're a little weak in your fractions to decimals percent, you might want to write this down, because it's going to help you, because you're going to have to do all of these things that they're asking you to do right here, right now. It says, for instance, how do you convert between a fraction to a decimal? And the answer is you divide. You have to remember that all fractions are division problems. So if somebody says, what is the decimal? My goodness. What is the decimal of 3 over 4? Let me erase that earlier mess I made there. You would write 3 divided by 4, which, if you check in your calculator, is what? 0.75. So you divide. How do you take a decimal and you turn it into a percent? Well, you take the decimal times 100. So let's use our 3 over 4 example. I would take 0.75, the decimal of 3 over 4, and multiply it times 100. And what you get is 75, which you can put that handy dandy little percent sign next to. Fraction to a percent, 2 steps. First, divide. Looks like an X. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a V. Sorry about that. Divide, and then multiply times 100. So for instance, Let's say you had the fraction 2 over 5. You would do 2 divided by 5, which equals 0.4, and then multiply that times 100, which equals 40%. Percents to decimals. Well, if you multiply a decimal times 100 to get a percent, you do the opposite of multiplication to go from percent to decimal. What is the opposite of multiplication? If you said division, you are correct. You divide by 100. So, our example here, 40 divided by 100 would equal 0.4. Percents to fractions. Well, again, it's sort of a combination of those two steps, like our first two steps were. It's two steps. First, divide. Then, use your math button on your calculator. So, let's say 40% divided by 100 is going to be 0.4. And if you hit your math button, it's going to give you hit math button and then enter twice, you get 2/5. You could also note that this is a fraction, which if you reduce it down equals this fraction. All right, final part of converting fractions to decimals and percents. It says 50% of 700 is what number? Well, to figure out 50% of something, we have to multiply 50% divided by 100 gives us the decimal, which is 0.5. And then we can multiply, not divide, don't make that mistake, times 700. This is saying 0.5 of 700. So it's multiplication, and that equals 350. 21 is 6% of what number? Well, there's a little bit of algebra going on here, if you remember that. What they're saying is 21 equals 6% as a decimal would be 6 divided by 100, or 0.06x. And as you remember, when you got all your numbers on one side and all your letters on the other, you just divide by whatever's in front of the letter to get the correct number. In this case, 0.06. And 21 divided by 0.06 is 350. 350 equals x. All right, make sure you get that down in your notebooks. Pause if you have to, and then go on to our next slide. Here are some story problems, which, unfortunately, because who likes story problems, is the primary way that you get a lot of percents, decimals, and fractions. It says, if you had $180 and you spent 2/5 of that 180, how much do you have left? All right, I have a fraction, and I have to figure out what the decimal is to find out what 2/5 of it is. 2 divided by 5 equals 0.4. And then I just multiply 0.4. I don't divide. Don't make that mistake. I want to know what 0.4 of multiplication 180 equals. it equals 72. And to find out how much I have left, I would go 180 minus 72. And that gives me what? 108? Yeah. 108. It says, what percentage of pizza is left after Jorge eats 5 slices? And the whole pizza had 11 slices left. So it had 11 to begin with. Jorge ate 5. So we would go 11 minus 5. And we find out how many's left. We got 6 out of 11. That's a fraction. So we go 6 divided by 11. What is 6 divided by 11? It is 0.5454. So I'm going to round it up to 0.55, which that's a decimal, and it wants to know what percentage of pizza is left. So I multiply this times 100 to get 55%. Hope you got that. See if you can get this next one, number 3. Shut off the video and work on it and get your answer, and then see if you got it right. The question is, I owe 1/5 of an apartment complex of 10 residences. What percentage of the apartment complex do I own? And how many residences is that? So 1 divided by 5 equals what? Do you know that? It's 0.2. Now, what do I have to do to 0.2 to figure out what a percentage is? If you said multiply times 100, you are correct. 0.2 times 100 is 20%. Then it says how many residences is with that. So I know there are 10 total residences and I own 20%. So 10 times 0.2 equals 2 residences. Hope you got that. All right. At a luxury item all-store, Arturo found a $2,200 Louis Vuitton purse for 45% off. What does it kind of cost him to impress his wife? So this is another one where we can do it one of two different ways. We can go 45 divided by 100. That equals 0.45. And then we can multiply that times 2,200. And what we would get would be, do you know? $990. But then we have an extra step. Then we have to go, okay, what is 2,200 minus 900? Excuse me, 990. You probably noticed that as soon as you punched it in. So what I get left over is 1210. There's the other way you can do it. You can say, what is 1.0 minus this number right here? 0.45. Well, it's 0.55. And what they want to ask is how much does this cost? To find out what it costs, we go 2200 times 0.55. And if you plug that into your calculator, you can see that you get this number right here, 1210. Get those down in your notebooks and proceed. All right, here's some more practice. If it seems repetitive, remember that we're going to be using these skills all semester long. A lot of financial algebra has to do with figuring out percentages, decimals, and fractions. So, wants us in this first one here to convert to a percent. So, A is 0.25. To convert a decimal to a percentage, what do you need to do? You have to multiply it times 100, and it equals 2.5%. If we have a fraction and we want to convert it to a percent, first thing we have to do is convert it to a decimal. So I go 6 divided by 13, and I get 0.46, which I multiply times 100, and I get 46%. C says turn 2.01 into a percentage. Remember, turning a decimal into a percentage is multiplying by 100. So I'm going to do C in blue so you can tell the difference. C 2.01. Sorry about that. 2.01 times 100, and is going to be 201%. All right, last one. D, 3 over 4. Again, to figure out what that is as a percentage, you may recall that we did something similar to this before. I take 3 and I divide it by 4, which gives me 0.75, and I take 0.75 times 100 to get 75%. All right, I want you to do number 2, convert to a decimal, number 3, convert to a fraction, and then number 4, answer those 2 translate and solve questions, and then turn the video back on to see if you got it right. It's okay if you got it wrong. You get it wrong, and you figure out, and you know that it's wrong, then you know one way you're not supposed to do it. Did you stop the video? I hope you did. All right. It says convert to a decimal. 5.4%. If we convert a percentage to a decimal, we divide by 100. And that gives us 0.054. B is 7 divided by 8. Well, since it's a fraction, all I got to do is divide it out, and I'll get the decimal. 7 divided by 8 equals what? If you said 0.875, you are correct. 1 divided by 100. 0.01. Again, it's a fraction. All I have to do is divide it out to get the decimal. 200%, well, I have to make it a decimal first, so that means I divide by 100, which gives me 2.0, which is our decimal. Number 3 says, convert these to a fraction. 24%. There's a couple of different ways to do this. All percentages are out of 100, right? So you could just write 24 over 100. But that reduces. If you punch in 24 divided by 100 into your calculator and then hit the math button and enter, you'll get 6 out of 25, which is what you would have got if you reduced 24 over 100. B says 102%. Again, it's 102 divided by 100. Gives me 1.02. And remember, that I can just go 1.02 divided by 100 gives me 51 over 50. C is 2.5% divided by 100, and that equals 0.025, which if you plug that into your calculator in the math button function, you get 1 over 40. D is 3 divided by 100, which is 0.03. And remember, it's out of 100, so it's 3 out of 100. First one to translate and solve says 110% of 30 is what number? So I'm going to convert that to a decimal first of all. 110 divided by 100 equals 1.1. We don't know the number. We're going to call it x. And it equals 30. So 1.1x equals 30. I divide each side by what's in front of the x. And I get oh, I've done this wrong. I'm sorry. Actually, we would have 1x equals 30. So times 1.1, you would get 33. You see, I took this to be 30. It is not. 100% is 30. What is 110 is what they want to know. 15 of 25% is what number? So we know that 0.25 equals 15. So we should make that 0.25x. Again, divide each side by the number in front of x, and I get 15 divided by 0.25 is 60. X equals 60. Get that down. We're almost done. This is our last slide. Some practical applications. The timer on the slide says 5 minutes. It's neither here nor there to me if you do it quicker or you take longer. Please stop your video and answer these 4 questions and then check to make sure the answers you came up with are what I tell you they are. And if they're not, try and figure out why you didn't get the right answer. Did you stop the video? I hope you did. Let's go over 1. What percentage of pizza is left after Bob eats 3 slices if the whole pizza had 8 evenly cut slices? So, to figure out something like this, we kind of go like, I got 8, and Bob ate 3. So 8 minus 3, that gives me 5. So I have 5 out of 8. That's my fraction, 5/8. But they want to know what percentage is left. So I got to go 5 divided by 8 equals what? What is the decimal that 5 divided by 8 equals? And it is 0.625. And now I have a decimal. I can figure out what the percentage is by multiplying by 100. What is 0.625 times 100? If you said 62.5%, you are correct. Number 2, if you had $100 and you spent 2/3 of that 100, how much do you have left? Oh, well, we'll figure out what 2/3 is. 2 divided by 3. What is 2 divided by 3? It is 0.66 going on forever. So we're going to call it 0.67 for the simplicity's sake. We're going to round up. So 0.67 times 100 is $67. And 100 minus $67 is $33. That's what you got left. Number 3 says, I own 1/5 of a house. What percentage of the house do I own? Okay, I take my fraction and I divide it out. What is 1 divided by 5? The top number divided by the bottom number. Well, 1 divided by 5 equals 0.2. And to find out what a percentage is from a decimal, I multiply times 100. So it equals 20%. If the total house value was $100,000, what dollar value do I own of the house? Well, I know that my decimal is 0.2. So I'm going to take that, my 0.2, and I'm going to multiply it. Sorry, that's not a very pretty 2, is it? Let's go over here so I get any better luck. 0.2 times $100,000 equals what? If you put that into your calculator and you multiply it out, you get $20,000. That's how much he's worth, his portion of the house. All right, that is today's lesson, the last lesson of the week. Friday for Wednesday, Friday, folks. Thursday for Tuesday, Thursday, folks. Complete assignment number 2 for week 2, and you are done for this week. Please remember to call, email, if you have any questions for me. Remember, we're too far along in this math thing for you to be talking to mom and dad. You gotta call me. Happy to do it. We're going to close with a joke of the day. Teacher asked a student, what book has helped you the most in your life? And the student said, my father's checkbook. That's all for today. Have a great one. We'll talk to you later.